Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hai Tachaha and welcome to my lecture and my fellow friends. My name is Nur Atira Dayana binti Zulkifli to number metric 271254. So today I would like to present my thesis. My thesis is about China's gross domestic product question after COVID-19. In chapter 1, which is introduction, I will explain about the problem statement and my objective of study. The problem statement of my study are the transmission of COVID-19 is a critical issue and needs to be taken seriously because it can cause various other problems. The infection of COVID-19 not only affect the community's health but will also affect the social and economic condition of the country. Several macroeconomic indicators affect China's gross domestic product before and after the COVID-19 pandemic, such as foreign direct investment, import and export. So in this study, I would like to investigate whether it is true that several macroeconomic factors influence the gross domestic product in China. There are two types of objective in my study, which is general and specific objective. The general objective in this study was conduct to review gross domestic product in China before and after pandemic COVID-19. And the specific objective are examine the relationship between FDI and GDP in China before and after the pandemic COVID-19. The second one is examine the relationship between import and GDP in China before and after the pandemic COVID-19. And the last one is examine the relationship between export and GDP in China before and after the pandemic COVID-19. Now let's move to the chapter 2, which is about literature review. In this chapter, I would like to explain about the research concept. GDP, before subtracting allowance for the use of fixed capital, a country's GDP is a measure of the total output value from all of its resident production units during a specific period. If a producing unit maintains its primary economic interest inside the economic territory of a nation, it is regarded as a resident of that nation. According to Wall Street Mojo team, foreign direct investment (FDI) is a method of business expansion involving international merger, acquisition, and the development of the new facilities outside geographical boundaries. It is essential for both the investor nation and the host nation. Import and foreign product and service that resident companies and government of other nation purchase. The value of product and services generated by a nation's business during a specific period and so overseas is referred to as export. Historical export have sold physical product like energy, other commodities, parts, and completed goods. The literature review of this study is about GDP, the entire worth of goods and services produced inside a nation during a specific accounting period is the GDP or gross domestic product. Macroeconomic indicator that affecting the gross domestic product in China before and after pandemic COVID-19 are FDI, which is Ho and Gan 2021 examine how the COVID-19 pandemic affect FDI by utilizing 142 samples from the different countries to learn more about its effect. The research found that the COVID-19 pandemic harmed the FDI. Second one is import relationship in several European countries, namely Belgium, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, and the Netherlands by Michelis and Zestes 2004. The study performed a Gregor causality test, confirming the existence of Gregor causality from the sector foreign sector to GDP. Last one is export. By Stochis 2020 observed that firms that solve their liquidity issues through equity financing, defer payments, and state aid grants are less likely to experience decreasing export revenues. This study also focused on COVID-19 GDP to be affected by the outbreak of COVID-19 according to the study by Feders 2020, Fezi and Fanghela 2020, and Meliet et al. 2020. In chapter 3, I will explain about the methodology of the study. The first one is theoretical framework, which is the independent variables is foreign direct investment (FDI), import and export, and the dependent variable is gross domestic. So this is my empirical model, which is y equal to a0 plus a1x1 plus a2x2 plus a3x3 plus arrow term. So this is my research hypothesis, HO, which is state that there is no relationship between microeconomic indicator and gross domestic product in China before and after COVID-19. HA is state that there is a relationship between microeconomic indicator and gross domestic product in China before and after pandemic COVID-19. Next one is data analysis method. The multiple nonlinear regression model method is used in this study to obtain the coefficient values of the independent variables in this model study. T-test is used to identify a relationship between the dependence variable and each independent variables. The coefficient of determination R square is used to measure the model's goodness in this study. Durbin-Watson statistic was used to detect the presence of autocorrelation in this study. Variance inflation factor (VIF) statistical value is used to identify whether there is a multicollinearity problem in the study model. Let's move to the chapter 4, which about data analysis and research finding. The result is the intercept value of this model is negative 361.099. The coefficient value for the FDI variable is negative, meaning the relationship between FDI and GDP is negative. This means that an increase in FDI of 1% will cause the GDP to decline by 20.673%. In addition, the coefficient value for import shows a positive relationship with GDP. While import increased by 1%, the GDP also increased by 4.947%. Finally, export also show a positive relationship with the GDP product, where export increase by 1% will increase the GDP by 2.385. The T statistic value for the FDI variable is negative 4.888, where the T statistic value is more than the T critical value in negative contact, which is negative 2.306. Therefore, this result shows that the null hypothesis is rejected. The statistic value for the import rate variable is 2.539, where the T statistic value exceeds the T critical value, which is 2.306. Therefore, this result shows that the null hypothesis is rejected. In addition, the T statistic value for the export variable is 1.277, where the statistic value less than the T critical value, which is 2.306. Therefore, this result show that the null hypothesis fails to be rejected. This proves that foreign direct investment and import variables influence domestic output in China before and after pandemic COVID-19. So the result F test and coefficient of determination. The coefficient of determination R square value is 0.981. Adjusted coefficient of determination is 0.978. The F statistic value in this study is 291.762. While the F critical value is 317 is 3.197. The remaining 2.20% is explained by the other independent variables or their errors, which are not included in the model. The result of autocorrelation test in this study, the Durbin-Watson statistic was used to detect autocorrelation problems. The test results show that the value of Durbin-Watson is 1.89869. So there are not autocorrelation problem. So this is the result of multicollinearity test. And so before the result proved a multicollinearity problem in this model due to the VIF value of some variables being more than the value of 10. So import and export are 93.390 and 101.536. So export is the largest. So we remove the export. And after the result after the remove of the export, the VIF value for all variables is less than the value of 10, which is FDI, and import is 3.496. So the last one is chapter 5, which is about conclusion of my study. In this study, I would like to explain about the discussion of this study. From 2001 to 2021, it is found that FDI before and after pandemic COVID-19 have a negative relationship with GDP. This suggests that FDI and COVID-19 is a negative contributor to increasing the GDP of China. However, a negative link between COVID-19 and FDI reflect transformation in the labor structure in China economies in recent decade by requiring more educated and high skilled labor rather than simple unskilled labors. I found that in 2001 to 2021, there are positive relationship between import and GDP before and after pandemic COVID-19 in China. So it's mean this relationship aligns with the economic theory and could be deemed significant. In China, export commodities are important, which can affect GDP, but there are also companies that can affect the China economy where there are large manufacturing companies or companies that can make people have job. Next, I will share some suggestion for China to increase their GDP. So the first one is China government can increase tax and reduce government spending to reduce inflationary pressure. The second one is China government should decrease unemployment, and the third one is increase import and export of China. Last but not least, I can conclude that one factor that affects GDP is import. Foreign direct investment (FDI) also affect positively to GDP. As for other elements, particularly export, according to the findings of expert studies, export is not really significantly positive, meaning that they do not affect the GDP. That's all for me. Thank you.